Raw brings the goods, SmackDown does as well, as WWE has an excellent go-home week before Hell in a Cell. I'm Jonathan McDonald, and this is Best Wrestling Podcast. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you are finding the time to listen to Best Wrestling Podcast here today. Hope your Wednesday is going as well as ours is here at Best Wrestling Podcast. I'm Jonathan McDonald here for the show today, and just want to start off right away with Raw because this was a week of good for WWE overall, and as a member of the IWC, shudder to even use that term, it's good whenever we can talk about good. And we will do that, as I thought that both Raw and SmackDown were excellent shows this week. Really made me want to see Hell in a Cell, and that is the purpose of go-home shows after all. And if this was a traditional pay-per-view world that we were living in, I would part with my, what is it in Canadian? Well, what was it? $59.99, maybe $69.99, something ridiculous. Or maybe I'd get a couple of friends to come over and chip in and help me out. Starting with Raw, some of the highlights for me were the Kevin Owens rectification. I thought that the random appearance of him helping to attack the Shield was a little bizarre, especially in the wake of him even more bizarrely quitting after his IC title match loss to Seth Rollins. But they kind of made amends for that with what I thought was an excellent, logically sound promo from Kevin Owens, giving some motivations for what he's been doing over the last little while, spelling out his frustrations with the loss of his best friend Sami Zayn, and kind of giving himself a reinvigoration and letting the fans know that he is going to be someone to be reckoned with, or not to be reckoned with, on Monday Night Raw. And I think Kevin Owens is the kind of heel that can afford to be dipped down in the rankings or the standings a little bit and be totally credible when he's brought back up. We saw this when just after he debuted, he was in a top-level feud with John Cena, sort of went back down to the Intercontinental Championship scene, had some great matches with Dean Ambrose. But when he became Universal Champion, although they botched that reign, I totally bought it. It was totally credible in my eyes. So I look forward to Kevin Owens getting back towards the top of the card. In my opinion, he's one of the very best overall performers in WWE today. Also on Raw, we saw the continuation of faction versus faction, which is something we don't see a lot of in modern day WWE. And I know that makes a lot of people happy. I certainly like it. I mean, look, at this point, the Roman Reigns thing, it is what it is, to use an overused cliche. They're going with Roman Reigns as a babyface. Let's just enjoy the product along the way if it's entertaining. And I thought it was. I like Braun Strowman's stable because it's logical, and I'm a fan of logical booking. So as we talked about on the last program or two, Braun Strowman's getting 3-on-1 when he goes to cash in. He's not going to be able to win the title. He recruits some peeps. He gets his match inside of a cell. He's having sound reasons to do what he's doing. Look, a heel is always going to be right. They're always, at least in their minds, going to put forward a credible explanation for what they're doing. That's the mark of a good heel. We have heard countless people, both inside and columnists outside the business, talk about this. A heel has a reason for what they're doing, and if they don't, and they're aimless, they're not as effective as a heel. So I like that stuff. And also, any opportunity that maybe some underutilized performers get to be a part of these beatdowns, that's awesome. And as an opportunity for Dolph Ziggler to get back towards the top of the card, and for Drew McIntyre to be at the top of the card, huge fans of both guys, so I like that as well. So overall, I thought Raw was pretty awesome. Also want to take time to give a special shout out to the Bobby Lashley needs a manager little angle that maybe they're starting. I think that's really cool as well. We were just here this week, myself and Matt, going through some old Macho Man stuff. And when he first debuted and he was like a top free agent, all the managers were kind of looking to become his manager. And so it was a little throwback to that. Nothing wrong with that. And Bobby Lashley is, a pretty impressive specimen, and he looks the part, but there's nothing wrong with giving him a mouthpiece, as he's not exactly the world's best promo cutter. So thumbs up to that as well. On the SmackDown side of things, I thought SmackDown also did a great job of wanting me to see Hell in the Cell. AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, they are intense right now. They are bringing an intensity to their feud. that is unlike anything we've seen on the SmackDown brand, maybe since the Miz's blow up at Daniel Bryan on Talking Smack. But regardless, it is intense, it's really good, and I'm enjoying the promo chops that these guys have in addition to their in-ring chops. Now, I do take issue with one thing that was written by Jack Jorgensen over, and I'm sorry if I'm botching that last name, so maybe it's Jorgensen, but nonetheless, if you haven't checked out his stuff for CBSSports.com, he is the guy when it comes to Raw and SmackDown recaps. And I think that's a bold statement to make, because I think every third or fourth person has at least at some point had a crack at recapping these shows. But Jack is a clutch guy for me and Matt whenever we need to catch up on something we may have missed or something we may not have remembered. His recaps are entertaining and they're solidly laid out. Starts with the big stuff, eventually does get through everything. So check out Jack's work. He's at Jack Jorgensen 1414 on Twitter. So he says in his review of SmackDown, or his recap of SmackDown, that, you know, family angles usually fall flat, but this one isn't. And I would disagree with that a little bit. I'm not saying that this angle has, quote unquote, fallen flat, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that the family stuff has really added to this angle. To me, I still really find that a bit of a contrived spot to this whole thing. I think that the same intensity, the same disputes, the same arguments could be had over just who's the better in-ring performer, who's the better wrestler. Maybe they could have done their dispute over AJU went to WWE, but I made sure to finish off what I started, going the hard way. I don't know, but the family thing, to me, it feels a bit forced. It feels hard to take serious. Nothing against AJ's wife and daughter. They didn't do anything that, you know, corpsed or blew this angle, but I think that same kind of hatred could be here without the family stuff. Nonetheless, I want to see that match. I thought that their SummerSlam match was the match of the night. I expect nothing less with their Hell in a Cell match, although they're going to be challenged by Orton and Hardy. More on that in a second. But there's just one dilemma that I see with this match, a bit of a booking quandary that they've painted themselves into here. I don't know if AJ and Joe is still in the works for the super duper Australian show, but if it is, I don't want to see another too drawn out extended of a feud between these two guys, like what happened with AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura. That feud, which for some reason never really got clicking, was dragged out, and a lot of it was to do with wanting to have a WWE Championship rematch between the two on the ever controversial Saudi Arabia show. So look, Joe either needs to win here, and I think he does need to win, or AJ's got to lose definitively, and like most baby faces, not really cash in the rematch clause oh so fast like heels seem to do. If Joe's gonna win, especially after not doing it at SummerSlam when he promised the world he would, I know DQ stuff aside, he's got to, you know, if he doesn't win here, he's gonna have total egg on his face. The claim for a rematch for the Australian show is going to be weak at best. So it's Joe's time. He's earned it. And hopefully they will just make the right call and give Samoa Joe a what I call a Mark Henry special. Remember back to Mark Henry over Randy Orton at Night of Champions 11. Just a clean, definitive heel win for Samoa Joe is, in my opinion, the right move. And hopefully we see it happen. And we will see the end of a fantastic WWE Championship reign from AJ Styles. So that brings us to Hell in a Cell. But before we get there, I just want to take a second to talk about our friends over at Kayfabe Chronicles. You can check them out on Twitter at KayfabeChron, and we'll spell it out for y'all, at KayfabeChron. Now, right now, Kayfabe Chronicles has a sequel to their comedic history of WrestleMania. And you may have seen that last year. That was excellent stuff. Right now they've got the sequel up, and this one's on the history of WrestleManias 21 through 33. So that's taking us almost up to present time. So once again, check out Kayfabe Chronicles. Follow them on Twitter at KayfabeChron. All of their stuff is excellent. They've been really big supporters of us from the beginning, and we appreciate that. And we want you to support them as well, not just for quid pro quo, but believe us, this is really entertaining stuff for any wrestling fan. So check them out, Kayfabe Chronicles, on Twitter at KayfabeChron. So Hell in a Cell is looking to be a good pay-per-view. You've already heard why I think that Joe should go over. And on the previous show, you've heard me say that I think Roman's going over. That leaves us with Orton versus Jeff Hardy. I've been a big fan of Randy Orton's heel renaissance, for lack of a better term. And I think that Randy Orton as a top heel is the way to go always. I'm a big Randy Orton apologist. And ever since that, I'll call it the Bullet Club promo, he has been passionate and engaged, and he could be a huge main event player as a heel for the SmackDown brand. I think Randy Orton's going over. If I were booking, I'd do it. And on the other end of things, I think that Jeff Hardy as a babyface, good old Ricky Morton reborn here, is bulletproof. You can probably take an educated guess that Jeff will miss or hit a big bump at some point in the match, but maybe it will be his downfall if he misses it. Jeff's bulletproof. He could lose that match clean as a whistle and waltz back out on SmackDown the following Tuesday to just as big of an ovation as he got at the pay-per-view. When you've got a bulletproof babyface, like with The Rock in 2000, they can afford to do the JOB, and I think that Jeff Hardy can at this show. So let's do some things that I want to put over and some things that I want to bury. First thing I want to put over today is promos. Good promo work all around from the WWE lately. Good promo work from Kevin Owens, as we mentioned. Fantastic stuff from Randy Orton, as we mentioned. Fantastic stuff, I guess it's not a promo as such, but from Renee Young on commentary. Fantastic promos from Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler and The Revival and Samoa Joe. Great stuff from the WWE in the running their mouth department as of late, which is especially great to see after being mired for a few years in the suffering succotash superscript realm. So I think the promo work as of late has been excellent. Something I want to bury, that is coming to the ring at a slow pace when you absolutely want to murder your opponent who is in the ring. Example of this, classic or infamous example of this, Triple H at WrestleMania 25. The build up to their feud was awesome. It was very, very personal. It involved Stephanie McMahon. It involved Randy punting Vince McMahon, Triple H's father-in-law. It involved Triple H coming to Randy Orton's house, maybe in a nod to Pillman and Austin from '96. It was super intense. Randy DDT'd Stephanie, and we get to WrestleMania 25. Triple H, you would think, is going to forego an over-the-top WrestleMania entrance. You'd think there's no time for spitting water. There's no time for slow, angry walking to Motorhead. He's got to get to the ring and seek some revenge. But not only does he do his typical slow-paced entrance, he also takes the time to do this silly smash a sledgehammer through glass spot at the very top of the ramp as he is set to come out. That is not what someone who is bloodthirsty for vengeance is going to do. That, to me, is a kayfabe, no pun intended, shatterer when you see stuff like that. And Triple H should have known better. There are other examples of this, but that's the one that jumps out to me. There's nothing wrong with getting to the ring in a hurry when you want to fight. Stone Cold was really good at this. He would just fling that title belt to Kingdom Come, leaving Earl Hebner to retrieve it. So when you're angry, show it. All right, that's going to do it here for us at Best Wrestling Podcast today. Please check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at RealBW Podcast, and we're on Instagram at Best Wrestling Podcast. You want to subscribe to the show, give us a 5-star review or follow or favorite, subscription, any positive thing that your particular podcast app does. because we're on all podcast apps, that would be so helpful to us, as it really helps us continue to grow, continue to move up in the podcast ranks, and continue to bring you professional wrestling audio, sports, entertainment content. All right, so if you could do that, much appreciated. Check out our show on any app you find your podcast. Check us out on social media. Enjoy Hell in a Cell this Sunday. I'm going to enjoy it because they've done a darn good job of building to it, which is good to see. This is Best Wrestling Podcast. We've only just begun.